It's almost summer, a time when the entertainment industry kicks into high gear. It's a time for blockbuster movies, TV specials, and tons of new video game announcements. It's a season I always looked forward to as a young person, because it seemed like every week there was something new and amazing coming out, seeking my time and what precious little money I had. But in exchange for those valuable resources, I gained access to experiences that transcended the mediums that contained them, experiences that have stuck with me for years. But current day is different. Summer doesn't bring about the same level of excitement as it once did, because the entertainment being released today doesn't offer the same value. Instead, every time I start to get excited about something, it turns out what I used to love has been hijacked by bad actors seeking to push a toxic agenda. And at times like this, it's hard not to think that the purpose of those behind the media isn't to create new things for people to enjoy, but instead to wreak destruction on everything that entertainment used to be. Over the last several years, especially after 2016, there seems to be a rising effort to turn away from mass media's first and greatest rule, to give people what they want. Media companies have become infected with socio-political agenda driven by radical activists who have sought to replace entertainment with messaging. People behind this can't help but project their own biases, beliefs, and militant attitudes towards everyone and everything else.
To be able to see themselves staring back at them. We now see the world of Middle-earth represented as a world that we live in now.
This infection has spread deep throughout the media world to varying degrees. There are certainly some who are not really in alignment with the activists, but feel pressure to go along with the messaging being pushed through them, their creativity poisoned by the toxic ideologies they're being forced to include. But at the same time, there are others, many others, who are so corrupted by this agenda that everything they produce is made with the intent to influence the minds of audiences. If they fail at this goal, they are perfectly content to destroy the franchises and properties they have co-opted instead. From here on, I've decided not to favor such people with the dignity of being called creatives, because they're not. They have no artistic merit and make nothing of value, and the destructive nature of their predatory intent is antithetical to real creative pursuits. So from here on, I will refer to such people not as creatives, but as Ravagers, people who wreak havoc on something and have a destructive effect on whatever they touch. But how should we distinguish and classify creatives from Ravagers? What criteria should we use? Here's a list of red flags that when taken together are a good indication of when you're dealing with a Ravager. Number 1. Adherence to DEI. This one is easy to spot, because companies going all in on DEI are very noisy about it. They want to make sure you know about their commitment to diversity and inclusion.
I also want to say representative, because we're getting more diversity within this series.
DEI isn't just a philosophy, but a collection of buzzwords that marketing departments seem to think are selling points. So whether it's behind the scenes, as with Amazon's Rings of Power, or on-screen with Disney's The Acolyte, or Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Shadows, you will know when DEI is being injected into the IP, because issues of identity and inclusion will overtake any kind of character or storytelling points. Number 2. Identity politics and feminist theory. Similar to point number 1, this is when the identity of the characters becomes their defining attribute, the whole of which the character is hung on. It often warps the entire world and storytelling around it too. For this, you can see Captain Marvel's heavy emphasis on Carol Danvers' status as a woman both in the Kree and human armies. A great chunk of that film's narrative and character arc relies heavily on the treatment of Danvers because she's a woman. Or in Umbrella Academy Season 3, in which Elliot Page's coming out as trans caused the character of Vanya Hargreaves to become Victor, and influence a sizable chunk of that season's plot as well. Number 3. Self-inserts. Maybe not as obvious as the first two, but growing in frequency. This is when one of the writers, producers, or even a director will create a character that is a fictional version of themselves. This character then serves as the mouthpiece for the one who created them, a messenger for the Ravager to hide behind. Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy has a mysterious habit of producing things that feature a female brunette with a British accent, and there's little question that in HBO's awful Scooby-Doo adaptation, Velma is just Mindy Kaling playing herself.
Oh, sorry I'm not a drunk on the verge of losing custody like every other woman solving murders these days.
Self-inserts are a low-effort way for a Ravager to make sure the audience gets the correct message. Number 4. Ignoring past character and plot details and established lore. When you're dealing with franchises with an established lore, characters, and story, it's easy to spot when all of it gets tossed out the window by a new team who want to do whatever they want with the IP. You can see this from Alec Kurtzman's Star Trek, which in tone, theme, and message is nothing like its predecessors.
Sheer f***ing hubris.
Or the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, which rewrites the character arcs of the first movie, ignores key pieces of lore, and subverts them all to push radical feminist propaganda. Number 5. Intentionally subverting expectation, not for the purpose of deepening or rewarding an audience's experience, but to destroy past associations. In the opening, I pointed out that mass media's primary mandate used to be to give people what they want. Ravagers flip this maxim on its head. They seem to delight in doing the exact opposite of what audiences want. There could be multiple reasons for this, but I think one likely one is that Ravagers are not trying to entertain. So not only do they not care about fan expectations, but they see them as something restrictive that would prevent them from achieving their true goals. And that is why fan expectations must be subverted or outright destroyed to free them from those bonds. Also, in some cases, Ravagers openly despise fans and desire to clean house, casting off the old fan base in pursuit of a new one that mirrors the priorities and convictions they themselves hold. This is what you get anytime you hear that something has been made for a modern audience. Number 6. Preemptively attacking fans as part of a pre-release marketing campaign, or blaming fans for not supporting the product after release. All of this leads to one inevitable place: the widespread rejection of new modern media in favor of the old people used to love. This rejection is taken as a refutation of the Ravagers themselves, and so they lash out at the audience. Fan blaming has become the go-to explanation for why new media products are failing. It has become so ubiquitous that it's even a preemptive part of the marketing. Disney and the entertainment media jumped out in front of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show to declare anyone who didn't like the new character Reva as a racist. Gamers discontent with their favorite heroines being turned into male caricatures are being called sexist incels or worse. This list is not exhaustive, and not every piece of media will tick every box, but in general you can see the destructive nature of one or more of these can have. But as the last point suggests, the true test of whether you're dealing with a Ravager or creative is how they respond to fans. We have examples like the creatives at Shift Up, who listened and responded to fan feedback around Stellar Blade. We have Tom Cruise, who while working on Top Gun Maverick, seemed to understand exactly what fans would want from a sequel, and delivered it. But when you have people who seem to know what their audience wants, and then produce something completely different, then blame their audience for not wanting the thing that they didn't want, and then proceed to double down on that course, then you have a Ravager. Someone who seeks to destroy. And make no mistake, Ravagers are perfectly happy to move on from Marvel, Star Wars, Assassin's Creed, and other IPs, leaving nothing but dust and ashes in their wake. That is their final act of defiance, because they would rather burn IPs to the ground than let someone else come along and restore them to what they used to be. And it's time we call them out for what they really are. Not creatives, but Ravagers. But remember, this is all just one Rebel's opinion. If you appreciated this commentary, please leave a like. Let me know what you think in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed so you'll get all the latest updates from Rebel Normal.